Hello, and welcome to the Gotham Outsiders, a very special episode. Today, we are going to be doing an interview with Alvaro Martinez, illustrator of Batman Detective Comics, Batman Eternal, and Batman and Robin Eternal. With us today is Christopher Morse, returning guest, who is going to be reading the responses from Alvaro Martinez because it was a email interview and commenting with us on his thoughts on it. So let's get right into it.
First off, thank you so much for doing this interview with us. We're so excited to talk with you. When and how did you start working with DC Comics, and what is your relationship with the Batman franchise? Were you a Batman fan before working on this title?
I started working for DC in 2014, first doing some backups in the Aquaman series. I was hired by Chris Conroy, who later jumped from the Aquaman franchise to the Batman group. I guess he saw something in me. I honestly don't know what. So he took me with him and gave me my first Gotham gigs in Batman Eternal. Later came Batman and Robin Eternal, and right after that, I was offered Detective Comics. Of course, I was a Batman fan, like everybody else, right?
People who listen to the show know Batman Eternal and Batman and Robin Eternal are two of my favorites. And then Detective Comics is one of the ones we've loved the best on this show. So
Yes.
it's just so fun to be, talking about and asking questions to someone who worked on some of my favorite projects.
Oh, for sure. And I haven't actually read all of Batman Eternal yet, but it's on my list.
It's
And
coming.
yeah,
And the art, if nothing else, the art is consistently phenomenal in my humble opinion. And it's
Absolutely.
oh
weird that
yeah,
I'm speaking in first person as him, but it's my own comments. He says that he doesn't know what Chris Conroy saw in him. I think I know what Chris Conroy saw in him because his work is just
oh my
top
gosh,
notch.
It's
yeah.
amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, that art just pops off the page and absolutely full of character, too. What was the working process like between you and writer James Tenian IV? There are so many fantastic, unique panel layouts in Detective Comics' Rise of the Batman. For example, the beer glass used to incorporate different panels within it. Are those artistic choices decided by you, the illustrator, or the writer? How much artistic freedom were you allowed?
That case in particular was all by me. James asked for a cool way to tackle the flashback scene, and since the characters were sitting in a bar, I thought of a beer glass. It took many versions to get to the correct approach, but I think it came out great. I was lucky to have the complicity of the editors, James and the color artist Brad Anderson, on that page. Usually it's a collaborative relationship. James may have a very specific idea, but I'm given a lot of freedom to work. Sometimes I stick to James's proposal, sometimes I spin the wheel, and sometimes we work together every step of the path looking for the best solution.
Oh wow. So like this the page we just mentioned in particular with the glass, that was one I think all of us were just captivated by when reading the book.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite pages in the entire graphic novel, yeah.
Right. It was just so creative, and the fact that like we're talking to the person that was the mastermind behind that is so cool, and that it
Who
was his
thinks of that?
idea.
Yeah,
Right.
who thinks of that? That's such a
Alvaro
great idea.
Martinez,
Yeah, apparently.
apparently.
Yeah, I love when comics break from the rigid panel format in a way that's so creative like this. And I feel like you just don't see this very often.
Yeah, this
And
reminds me
it
of
yeah.
like really so like Young Avengers by uh Kieran Gillen did some really cool stuff like this
Mm,
too. I'm a fan
yeah,
of this creative stuff.
And it's
absolutely.
great because comic books are the only medium or one of the only mediums where you can actually do this, where you can actually show a flashback in a glass of beer. I suppose you could do it in film now, but that's a lot of CGI. That's a lot of really thinking about things when it would just be easier to film it. Whereas this, it's just like it's gorgeous. You understand what it is, and it's you can't do it in another medium easily.
There were multiple illustrators that were involved with making Rise of the Batman translate from script to page. Usually, comic books have one illustrator per issue, maybe two. What was it like collaborating with so many different illustrators on one book? How was it decided which portions of the script you would personally illustrate?
In our first arc, Rise of the Batmen, the plan was to have two artists, Eddie Barrows and me, with Eber Ferreira, Adriano Lucas, Raul Fernandez, and Brad Anderson on inks and colors. From the very beginning. Detective is a bi weekly series, and it's impossible for a single artist to draw all the issues. The editors split the work, and we try to fit it into our schedules the best we can. Neither Eddie or me are the fastest artists in business, and soon we needed some help. James's run in Tech, which is Detective Comics, lasted 50 issues, and we were lucky to have many artists jumping in. Javi Fernandez, Marcio Takara, Miguel Mendoza, all of them did stunning work. I'm proud that I was able to do 13 issues, which I think makes me the artist that drew the most issues of the run.
You might not be the fastest, but you're one of the best. Hey.
And if I mispronounced any of those names, it's my fault. It is not Alvaro's fault because
you're doing
so
great.
just FYI.
Yeah, perfection takes time, Alvaro.
Your covers for this book are absolutely stunning. How did you decide what an issue cover will feature? Do you come up with ideas or does the writer, editor, etc.? In our podcast episode where we discussed Rise of Batman, we talked specifically about how your issue, number 937, cover resembles the iconic X-Men Days of Future Past cover, with the heroes pushed up against a brick wall by the enemies with a spotlight shined on them. Was this homage on purpose?
Thanks a lot. Covers are really important for a comic book artist, and I try to do my best work possible on them. Editors usually suggest a few ideas. I try to stick to them, and normally I send 4 or 5 proposals. I want them to have as many options as I can come with. Sometimes I have an idea that gets out of the line. Usually they are rejected, but a couple of times I got my own way. Spoilers, they tend to be my favorites.
Did you have a favorite scene or character to draw in this book? We here at Gotham Outsiders are big fans of Tim Drake, and we have not emotionally recovered from his death scene at the end of this volume. We also adore this version of Clayface. He is so fun and lovable.
Yeah, I think Clayface was the big reveal in this series. I don't see him going back to being a regular Batman foe. I think we turned him into something else. I enjoyed many issues, the Intelligence arc, for instance, but if I had to keep one in particular, I'd say the A Lonely Place of Living arc with the return of Tim Drake. Those were very emotional, powerful issues with lots of characters and different scenes for me to draw. I had a really pleasant time drawing them, and I think it shows. Also, issue number 975 was very, very special for me.
I
Yeah.
also am a big fan of Tim Drake no longer being dead, so
Which clearly means we have to read the next couple of arcs so we can get to that
I know.
issue number 975.
we must. We have no
Right.
choice.
I know. That's not volume 2. Is that volume 3 maybe?
Volume 2 or 3, I'm not sure.
It's definitely not 2.
No, it's
Because
not
I
too.
read that one and I was like, where's Tim Drake though?
Imagine being us fans waiting for the actual issues to come out. It was
Oh.
the pain.
At least it was bi-weekly and not monthly.
That's that's true.
And then Clayface, just love Clayface.
Yes, we'll always be such Clayface stands on this show.
He's the best.
He is the purest bean.
We are all Clayface.
We are. Maybe Clayface was the friends you made along the way. What was the most challenging aspect of working on this book? Is it difficult working with characters that have such long, convoluted histories, or did those histories make it easier to visualize how you wanted to convey them? Did those character histories inform the way you illustrated?
Not really. I consider all that background as invaluable reference. Honestly, it makes my work easier. The worst part was having a huge cast moving around all the time. You need to convey their different personalities, body languages. That's also the funny part. I didn't get bored easily working on Tech. Since then, I became some kind of a group artist in JLD and in the series I'm currently working, where I'm drawing a cast of 12 characters almost all the time.
Oh wow. Yeah, I'm a fan of like big team books. Those are what I prefer to read, but I can imagine this would be a pain in the butt to draw.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much to each one of the big characters that having them all cross over. Yeah, that's a lot to keep track of.
Well, it's and he's right. It is a good thing that they have all these characters have so much history that the work is already done in a lot of ways of like, what does this character move like? What does that character act like? And then you just know that's how they have to look in every panel.
Absolutely, yeah.
At the end of each podcast episode, we ask every guest a version of the same question. Do you have a dream Batman related project that you would want to work on? Are there any Batman characters, relationships, or scenarios that you are just craving to illustrate?
Yeah, many. I'll say one. I want to do a story with the mutants and the Sons of Batman from Dark Knight Returns. a gang war, something like the Warriors movie with a huge brawl scenes.
Chris, have you read Dark Knight Returns? Chris is?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I think
Yes.
I think I have. I'm not confident.
It's the Frank Miller.
It's the Frank Miller.
Oh,
Yeah.
the alternate reality Frank
Yes.
Miller, not the slapping Robin Frank Miller. Okay.
Right.
No.
No, I haven't read that one then.
Okay. Well, I'm a big fan of that one. So I would love to see that.
Yeah, without spoiling anything, it's like the first arc of Dark Knight Returns is there's like gang warfare in the city, and one of the gangs is called the Mutants.
Oh.
And then, kind of semi-spoiler, cover your ears if you don't want to hear this. At one point, Batman takes them out, and then by taking out their leader, and then they reform themselves into the Sons of Batman.
Oh.
Not really under his tutelage, but they're like, Batman's cool. He beat our leader. Let's all be a Batman gang now.
Yeah, so I would love to see Alvaro's take on just what he would do with those characters and groups.
Yeah.
Let other people play around in that universe. Maybe they'll make it slightly less toxic.
We talk a lot of trash about Frank Miller, but I do think that's an interesting world he created in that book. So I would love to see more, especially from Alvaro.
Yeah, I agree. I think Frank Miller is one of the most creative people I don't like.
That's fair.
That's totally fair.
I don't know
That's
him
more
personally.
than fair.
I feel like I should say this. I don't know him personally. I mean his writing.
Alvaro, thank you so much for answering our questions. And Christopher Morse, thank you so much for narrating those answers.
My pleasure, anytime.